Welcome to this special edition of Hannity, the left's agenda. I'm Janine Pirro, and tonight for Sean. For the hour, we'll show you how Democrats, the deep state, and the media are all working together against President Donald Trump. First, we'll address the special counsel's partisan probe into Russian collusion. While this administration pushes a sound conservative agenda, Mueller's witch hunt is dividing the country and wreaking political havoc day after day. Meanwhile, Attorney General Jeff Sessions is nowhere to be found. He's recused himself from all things Russia almost immediately after taking office. And now, the relationship between President Trump and his absentee Attorney General is at an all-time low. Today, the president mocked Sessions on Twitter, writing, quote, "Department of Justice will not be improperly influenced by political considerations." Jeff, this is great. What everyone wants. So look into all of the corruption on the other side, including deleted emails, Comey lies and leaks, Mueller conflicts, McCabe, Strzok, Page, or FISA abuse, Christopher Steele, and his phony and corrupt dossier, the Clinton Foundation, illegal surveillance of Trump campaign, Russian collusion by Dems, and so much more. Open up the papers and documents without redaction? Come on, Jeff, you can do it. The country is waiting. Former House Oversight Committee Chairman Jason Chaffetz is slamming Sessions for perpetuating our two-tiered system of justice. Take a look.
Donald Trump is right and Jeff Sessions is wrong. Jeff Sessions, to say he hasn't done any political considerations is totally false. He hasn't done nothing to go after what Congress has been asking for and giving the documents up. He has done nothing to pursue what is known to be false statements to Congress. I was the chairman of the Oversight Committee and Bob Goodlatte, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. We sent a letter over to the Department of Justice asking him to look if Hillary Clinton lied under oath. Never gave a response. That's because of politics, not because he's just not doing his job.
Even Senator Lindsey Graham, a longtime Sessions ally, is questioning his ongoing tenure as Attorney General. Take a look.
Every president deserves an attorney general they have confidence in. As to Jeff Sessions, I've never met a finer man. He was a great senator. He's a great lawyer. I think he's been a good attorney general. But this is not working, so I hope the relationship gets better. If it doesn't, I would imagine the president is going to look for a new attorney general, because what's going on is unsustainable. I'm not blaming anybody. I love Jeff Sessions. But from my point of view, the country is not being well served with this much friction.
Meanwhile, with Sessions' MIA, Mueller's partisan team of Democratic donors have aggressively targeted Trump and everyone around him. Clinton pollster Mark Penn is writing that Cohen's plea deal is merely an attempt to set up Trump. And the Wall Street Journal's Kimberly Strassel highlighted the FBI's one-sided investigation in a brand new report, writing, quote, "The country has watched the FBI treat one presidential campaign with kid gloves, the other with informants, warrants, and eavesdropping." Joining us now to break all of this down is Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, the author of the New York Times bestseller, The Russia Hoax, the illicit scheme to clear Hillary Clinton and frame Donald Trump, Fox News legal analyst Gregg, Jarrett, and former Clinton pollster and advisor Mark Penn. All right, good evening to all of you. I'm going to start with what Jason Chaffetz said that we just heard on that sound, where he talked about sending a letter to Jeff Sessions and saying he never got a response with respect to his investigation of all of the wrongdoings or apparent wrongdoings of the Clinton campaign. And I'll go to you, Attorney General Pam Bondi. Is Mueller's probe a one-sided probe?
Well, of course it is, because they're only looking at the president of the United States, and that is their target. And anyone who gets in the way is collateral damage. That's what they're doing. But all of these other issues have to be examined. I mean, we live in a nation of laws, and we have got to look at the Clinton emails, everything that you listed in your opening monologue, everything President Trump said. We've got to look at Strzok, Page, everything, the FISA warrant, everything. But especially these FBI agents who either, like Lisa Page, got to resign, or even the ones who were fired. I'm sorry, they don't get off that easy. They have to be investigated.
Well, they have to be investigated, but Greg, you and I both know that there is no attorney general who's interested in investigating him.
Jeff Sessions is either an unwitting dupe or he's incompetent. It's got to be one of the two. One of the fundamental principles of democracy is equal justice under the law. It's on the pediment of the U.S. Supreme Court. That's how important it is. But under Jeff Sessions and the previous Department of Justice, it is nothing more than a charade. The president rightly named more than a dozen things Sessions should be investigated for, especially Hillary Clinton and her conduct. James Comey twisted the facts, contorted the law to clear her. Both of them should be in front of a grand jury.
You said something interesting. You gave me two options. You said Jeff Sessions is either an unwitting dupe or incompetent.
Yes.
Or could it be possible that there are people who have convinced him that it's not in his interest to look at potential problems on the Democratic side?
That would go to incompetence, because if he's so,
that
if
would
he
go
is
to
so
being sold out. There's a difference between
then let's
that as a
add
prosecutor.
corrupt.
Yeah.
That would be corrupt.
Right.
For political purposes, you are making decisions about law and justice, which are two polar opposites.
Okay, Mark Penn, I'll go to you on this. You know, your article that we'll get to in a little bit is excellent. I read it. But in terms of, you know, your being someone who worked with the Clintons, you know how they work. You know now that it appears, or that there is a deep state here that is protecting them. Am I right in that assumption?
Well, I don't know whether it's a question of whether they're protecting Hillary Clinton or not, but they sure are going after President Trump.
No,
that's clear.
Let's back up. That's not the answer. What I'm looking for is if the woman had a foundation that was not investigated, no one has had, there is no kind of forensic accounting other than by people who are connected to the Clinton Foundation, that along with money going to the Fusion, and that's campaign funds being paid for a dossier that's totally fake, shouldn't she be looked at?
Well, look, every school child knows when you look at this that the most cursory tools and investigations were done on the allegations against the Clinton and the Clinton cash, and you're seeing the absolute entire state machinery of prosecutors, FBI, CIA, all combined going after Trump. So there's no question that there's an unequal scale here that almost everybody in America sees.
So then what do we do about it, Pam? I mean, you're an attorney general. How do you resolve this kind of thing?
Well, and again, we know we're not in a perfect world, but given all of our backgrounds, in a perfect world, what should be happening right now? Hillary Clinton should be in receipt of a target letter. Huma Abedin should be in receipt of a target letter. All of these people, and frankly, the American public shouldn't really know what's going on in a clean, honest investigation. So that's what should be going on. They should be under active investigation right now.
Yeah, but they're not.
The only way
Go ahead,
to do
Greg.
that is to replace Jeff Sessions. Look, when you have lost the confidence of your boss, the President of the United States, when you've breached that trust, the good and honorable and right thing to do is to submit your letter of resignation. And that's what Jeff Sessions should have done a long time ago. He apparently did it a year ago, but the president at the time felt it was unwise to accept it.
Well, that's President Trump. I mean, he gives everyone a chance. I mean, you know, you can even look at the one who just wrote the book. Gave her a chance, and, you know, he believes in people. He believes in raising people up. But you know what? I'm going to go to you, Mark, on your article where you write about Cohen's plea deal is an attempt to set up Trump. All right, so we now know that Michael Cohen has pled guilty, and at the end of the plea, one of the last pleas had to do with the reference to campaign finances. What was your take on that? How does it set up the president?
Look, I think given what it seems the prosecutors found probably Cohn would have pled guilty to the Lindbergh kidnapping had they asked him to. I think at the end of the day, they said, look, plead guilty to this. We'll reduce your sentence. We won't go after your wife. I think that was even, now I understand, on the table. And those things that he pled guilty to are not crimes. So by getting him to plead guilty, they can now create an unindicted conspiracy kind of theory for impeachment on something that's not a crime. This was established with Clinton. It was established with Edwards very clearly when even the FEC ruled that these payments were not campaign contributions. And frankly, had they paid them out of the campaign, they'd probably be indicted for misuse of campaign funds for personal purposes.
Well, there's no question about what Mark is saying, Pam, and that is that, you know, if you paid for it for personal purposes out of your own money, I mean, there's no campaign violation. Absolutely. They want to interpret it as meaning he was trying to meddle with the 2016 election. I find that stunning as a prosecutor.
Well, and we see it. We see CEOs, we see corporate executives all the time who men want to extort money from them. And they have, my advice is go to the police. But they never want to go to the police because they have families, or it could affect their stocks. Right. So what they do is they hire a private attorney, and with that attorney, they do a lock-solid non-disclosure. And that's a good attorney. This is a bad attorney who represented his client poorly.
Look at all the members of Congress who paid money to accusers, sexual harassment, and in exchange for NDAs. Now, obviously, it would benefit them in their re-election, but no prosecutor ever accused them of a campaign crime.
That's very interesting. Yeah, for all those people who paid off, you know, the young interns or whomever they sexually harassed with our taxpayers' money, I would remind you.
I talked to a career lawyer at the Department of Justice who has since left. He spent half of his time on campaign violations. He said this isn't a crime. It's not a campaign violation. Of course not. And it's outrageous that Jeff Sessions and Rod Rosenstein would have authorized a plea guilty for a non-crime.
And the truth is, Mark, that there is no civil or criminal precedent to bring charges on something like this. Is that not correct?
There is. Look, the precedent was Edwards. And he both got off, and the FEC ruled that these payments were not properly campaign payments, and so all the donors were off the hook. Look, just think about it for a minute. One of them he's accused of coordinating, not actually even making the payment. And imagine if Michael Avenatti coordinated a payment to Stormy Daniels with CBS to air it to help Hillary, then that would have to be a campaign contribution, just as a payment not to air it would be a campaigne contribution.
Exactly.
All of these things, which is why the whole thing's absurd.
The whole thing is absurd, and in the end, you know, is Lady Justice, did she have it in for Donald Trump? And are there two systems of justice in this country? I'll ask both of you, 30 seconds.
That's what we're seeing. That's clearly what we're seeing. We're seeing a vendetta against the president of the United States because he won an election fair and square.
But you know what's interesting, Pam, and you and I have both been prosecutors. I mean, you know, we have to be believers. If we weren't believers, we wouldn't be doing the jobs that you're doing, that I did. Right. It's, you know, and it is so frustrating because this is not the way justice is supposed to work.
No, and especially when you see a guy like Michael Cohen, we all know he is a zero as a witness. He's useless. That guy's
zero
useless.
As a witness and a lawyer.
Right. He's told so many different stories. So many stories.
Yes. Go ahead, Gregg.
Partisans have ripped the blindfold off of Lady Justice.
Or she's looking through the bandages.
And they have jumped on the scales of justice. And they have tipped it in their favor for political purposes. That is anathema to our rule of law and the system of justice.
So given that, don't you think that if we get no justice in our justice system, will we get justice in the 2018 elections? Quick, yes or no, Mark?
Well, look, I fought strongly for President Clinton.
That's not a yes or no.
Right? Look, we will get justice every time people vote instead of having our politicians locked with prosecutors.
No way to know.
Good answer.